Hello, hello, hello. Crafty Chris here again for another Scrap Your Scraps Thursday night. Tonight we are going to be making a one-sheet flip-flap album and using up some of our leftover pieces of paper to decorate the different sides of the little flip-flap album. Now this flip-flap album is all over Pinterest and the internet. It's nothing that I have created on my own. It's just something I'm going to walk you through and show you how to do in case you haven't seen it yourself. So we're going to start with a 12 by 12 piece of paper. I've chosen this one because I think the theme for my flip-flap album is going to be fall. So these were kind of, I thought it was nice to have a very patterny side and something that's a little more neutral on the back. Now I noticed that my camera is flipping in and out of focus, and I apologize for that, but if I turn the autofocus off, it goes completely out of focus. So bear with me. I will try not to move too quickly so that my camera gets annoyed. All right, so we're starting with a 12 by 12 piece of paper, and you'll need to have a 12 by 12 scoreboard. The first score line we're going to make is at 2 3/8 inches. So that's 1, 2, 3/8 inches. And when I do my scores, I don't press too hard on the first round. I just kind of go lightly over it 3 times to make sure that it's scored nicely, but does not go through the paper. And then the second score line is going to be at 7 1/4. So from that edge out to 7 1/4. Okay, again, just putting those 3 even pressure, not too hot, heavy pressured pieces of paper. So that's the first thing we're going to do. Then we're going to rotate this to do some smaller scores at the top. And so we are going to rotate this so that our small, so we're going to the, I guess, to the right, so that our smaller of the two scores is at the top, okay? And then we are going to score at 3 7/8. Again, 3 light score lines. And we are going to score at 4 1/8. 4 1/8. So that gives us like a 1/4 inch there. Then we're going to score at 8 inches. And we're going to score at 8 1/4 inches. And that gives us that little 1/4 inch gap here and here. So now we are going to do some cutting. So I'm going to use the other side of the paper where you can possibly see my scores a little bit easier, just to show you where I'm going to do my cuts. So my score line, if you remember, the smaller score section was at the top, then the big section, and then another section here. I am going to be cutting down to the first score line and up, leaving a gap. I'm removing a paper within this gap. So let me do that so that I can show you. I'm trying to find some scissors here. There we go. Okay. So I am cutting down on both sides. Turn the paper upside down so that I can do this. Okay. So now if you look at this, my small section of score, which when we had it this way was across the top, and now I've cut out where I just did this last scoring. I've cut out that little section there. Okay, so I'm going to remove that altogether. I can see it better myself on the back, so I'm going to flip it over to do that and make sure I don't snip something I am not supposed to snip. So now bringing it back to the front, based on what our last scoring was, I've taken out that 1/4 inch here. Now I'm going to go to the bottom and take out from our score line across here, I'm going to take out the 1/4 inch at the bottom as well. So you'll see what I mean in a moment. Trouble seeing it myself. And I guess I could do this with a cutter, but I just happen to have the scissors available. Okay. All right. And again, I'm going to snip those where they meet. Okay. So now we started this way, put a line here and a line here, then we rotated it to the right, and we put a line here and a line here, a line here and a line here, and now I've just removed those down to where the original lines were scored in. So that's where we're at right now. Okay, so I'm going to turn this again to the right, and I'm going to decide which is going to be my front side and my back side. This all folds up like a bow. I think I'm going to have that, this side face up, and I'm going to just score a 1/4 inch on here, because I'm going to remove a 1/4 inch on that. So on this side, I'm just scoring so that I know that I've got a 1/4 inch that I'm taking off of here. And I did my score to give me that line. I could have done it with a cutter as well. Now, so I'm putting it back into my board so I can see that my right hand flap now is 1/4 inch short. And then I'm going to take my left hand flap and I'm going to measure in from either side. I'm going to measure in, let me see. About a 1/2 inch here, maybe. No, I should do a little more. 3/4 of an inch. So 3/4 of an inch from this side, I'm moving in, and I'm not scoring, I'm just making a mark. Okay? And 3/4 of an inch in from this side, I am also doing the same. And you can do that with a pencil if you want. Now that, from that point down to this corner, I am going to cut to create like an envelope. So let me show you how I mean. Go to that corner, and this gives me an envelope shape. Okay, so I'm bringing it back up so you can see now my 1/4 inch missing here, my envelope shape here. Okay, now, how do we fold this all up? So everything gets folded over, and now it's up to us to decorate and create with this. So there's multiple options that you can work with. I'm going to get rid of my scoreboard for a moment. You can add flaps and pockets and all kinds of things to this design once you've got it created, because it really is creating that housing for what you want to see in your album. Okay. Fold that over. Fold that over. So I'm just right now folding all the fold lines. Got that, got that, got that. Got this. Got that. and got that. So if I close all this up, this is like 3 pockets if I choose to make them 3 pockets. And when they all fold together, they create this little album. I'm going to probably go a little bit further than that, but that is as simple as it needs to be. So you can use your adhesive, your very thin tape adhesive. Oh, here it is. I knew I pulled it out. So I have this little thin stuff, and you can put a piece underneath this, down there and down there, and here and here, and here and here. And then those things can be pockets, if that's as far as you want to go. Or you can use the entire project to create pockets and flips and flaps to make some interest. So what I am going to do is I am going to, actually I want to use this side. So I'm going to go back and fold these in the opposite direction. Sorry about that, folks. If you have a side that you decided you do not want to use, feel free to refold everything back the other way. Alright, so now I'm going to grab some full light paper scraps, and hopefully you have some of those things put away in a particular area, and I will grab those. Here I have a smattering of some old collection kit stuff that has a fall theme to it. What my intention for this project is to minimize this really patterny bit by making pockets and flaps inside and keeping the outer side a little bit more neutral. And I've got a smattering of these journal boxes that I can use, some paper that has words that I can cut up, and some interesting leaves and things, and then a whole page of sayings for fall, little scraps of paper. So it's going to, you know, in order to coordinate with the colors that are in the background, I don't want to cover that up completely, but I want to sort of simplify it a bit. So I have some paper that has got birds on it. So let me just take my scraps first, and then I'll worry about the larger pieces afterwards. I want to try to find some paper that will not be competitive. Like that to me is kind of competitive, but on the back side it's not so bad. And same with this. This is along the same lines. Yes, it's patterny, but the colors kind of blend in. So I'm hoping that I can build some pockets and things using these pieces. So again, back to scraps, because I have full-size pieces here, but I don't necessarily have to use the full-size pieces. That's not going to go at all. Alrighty, I think the red I'm going to take out, and I'm going to stick to the yellows and the golds, and the browns and the greens, because I don't really think that's a good match. And I have this on the back of the birds is some laciness. I don't know how that's going to play in, but we'll see what happens. Alright, so keeping this more towards the birds. Alright, so just stick that to the side for a moment and take a look at what's going on. Oops. Okay, so this has the potential of being a pocket all on its own if I want, or I can have this a space for a photograph and I can create another pocket here using this as the top. So I think that that is what I'd like to do. Now the measurement of this space is 3 3/4 inches by 4 3/4 inches, it looks like. Let me just double check that. 4 7/8 inches. Okay, so I think I'm going to make a pocket that is 4 1/2 by 3 1/2. So I'm going to, I think I will use some of my paper that's very close to that. So I'm going to cut this piece 4 1/2. Get my little cutter out. 4.5 and 3.5. Okay, and that's going to fit right in there. Very nice. And I'm going to line it up with both sides. So if I were to fold this over, I'm going to line it up in that section equally, bottom, and it's going to be a little bit lower on that section. I can fold this up so we can focus right on that section. So it's going to be a little bit, it's lined up along here, along here, along here. It's a little bit lower at the top, but that's okay because that's where you want to put your things. And then that will be the flap. So on the back side, I am going to put some double-sided tape. I usually tear this stuff, but apparently the paper will tear too easily. Now this is just going to hold a tag or something. It's not a strong enough paper to really hold something heavy unless you were to make a bevel. Bevel, is that the right word? A bellows for the pocket so that it actually can open wider at the bottom and the sides to accept something thicker. But by the time you fold everything all together, you'll see that it's thick enough. Okay, once you lay that down, it's down. So I'm a little bit off on either side, but it's more or less where I need it. And it's open at the top, so now I have the opportunity of using that as a pocket for a picture and for some sort of a tag or a journal spot. So one thing I do want to do is notch the corners on this, just to give it a little bit of interest. So I've notched the corners a tiny bit. And now I have a pocket that's ready there. On this one, I think I'd like to do a bit of a flap. So we're going to, I'm not thrilled about the red in this paper, but I don't mind the yellow. And I want to create a flap. So I'm going to cut this exactly the width of, it looks like 3 13/16, which is an odd measurement, but anyway, there it is. 3 13/16 by, and I'm just going to make it slightly shorter than, I'm going to make it 4.5. So, this in, 4.5 tall. And 3 13/16, so there's half, half again. All right, so this should be shorter, but the same width, more or less. Yeah. And I am now going to fold that on a quarter the long way. So I'm going to get out my scoreboard just to help me with that. And I'm going to do it at this edge. I want 1/4 of an inch for a fold on this side. So I'm just going to turn this like this. And that's going to be the side that I tape to have the flap fall down. This side, I'm going to definitely have to change the color of that. So likely I will put some kind of a card on there. So now I think I might put 2 lines of washi tape on here. Whoops. Yikes. Okay, that's down. Like I said, once you do it, you've done it for good. Alrighty, and I'm going to pull that off because it's now out of alignment. And put washi tape along this edge too. Alright. Pull that off. And then I'm going to try before I stick it down to figure out the alignment on it. There we go. Alright, and so there's the flap that opens. So I have a pocket here and a flap here, and I have lots of space for photos and decor and whatnot. This one, I think I will, I don't know what to do with that one. We'll come back to that one. This one, you can round the corners in the same way I rounded the other one, just to give it a bit of interest. Whoop, that didn't go in there very nicely. There we go. So it's got a rounded corner on each side. This one has its own shape. I think I'm going to pull this one up and just create a pocket here, an already available pocket. So this is going to be taped, and I'm using the thin tape so you have a fair amount of space inside to create that pocket. And because we have a fold already at the bottom, we don't need to tape that bottom because it's already attached. So we're just taping both sides, like so. Alright, there we go. There we go. And I'm just going to make sure I line that up. There we are. So there's our pocket. Push down a little harder. And again, it's going to only hold something thin like a card or a tag. And then there's your fold over for that pocket. This one, I think I'm going to do 2 more flaps, but this time I'm going to have this flap up, and this flap can flap to the side. So let's add some more color. And I think I'll take some green. And I'm going to measure that. And this measurement is 3 3/8. So I'm going to do this about 3 3/4 wide. Nope, that's a little tight. 3.5 wide by, I think I'm going to go the same length as what I did before, which was 4.5, right? 4.5. So 3.5 by 4.5 for this flap. Now, I need extra on that, so 3 3/4 by 4 is how we're going to cut it. And this is a long piece, but I don't need all of it. 3 3/4. Three and 3/4. There we go. By 4.5, and which is the better edge? This edge looks a little rough. 4.5. This piece I'll put in my little scraps. Alrighty. Now I'm going to get my embossing thing, or not embossing thing, but my scoreboard again. Give myself that 1/4 inch not too hard. Again, on the back side of this, I'm going to have to put something that's large enough to cover up what's going on here. And put my tape down. And that time I didn't do too badly, so it looks more or less all in one piece. Take that off. And another small piece here. Alright, and then that is going to be centered on here, more or less. Again, trying to line it up before I stick it down. There we go. And so that is like that, and that flap can just keep everything together. And this is going to have a flap that goes up. This measurement is, we're going to make that 3.5 again, and this one is 4.5, and I need to add a quarter, so 4 3/4. And I think we'll bring in a little bit of wood. And again, on the back side of that, we're going to have to change that look. So, three and a half. Wide. Is that correct? Just want to make sure I'm not going. Yeah, 3.5 wide. Okay. And it's 4.5 long, but I'm adding a quarter, so 4 3/4. Because I need a top flap for that. Again, I'm going to keep that for my scraps. And again, I'm going to pull out my scoreboard. And this time, I'm doing this across the top. And I think I want more of the lighter brown to show. So these are all things that you want to think about. And then I'm going to fold that top edge. There we go. And put my scoreboard down. Add my tape to the edge of this. And I can do it this way. Maybe this will be easier. Sometimes just switching a direction of something makes a big difference. That one's a little easier actually. And then put my second line across there. That was a little easier, folks. And I can take off and line up what's going on here. So, and there we have our bottom flap that flaps up. Okay. So now I want to take some of these and kind of put them inside to minimize the look of that brownie background. Or maybe I need to do something different. Hang on a second. This is all in the moment. I do have this paper, so I can create, this is plain on the back, I didn't want to just use it, so I can add this to the flap. So, flap is 3.5 by 4.5, so let me get my bigger cutter. I need the words to go in the right direction. And let's trim off that. That will just be so much easier. So 3.5 wide. By 4.5 wide. So we have this that's going to be, it's got a little bit of red in it, I gotta say, but I think that there's enough of all the different browns and greens and yellows that it will cover that nicely. Alright, and I'm going to have to trim it a little bit, I think, because when I did the fold, yeah, it's going to need a small bit of trimming. So this fold will disappear under the picture that goes on here. Okay, so let me just take my regular adhesive, if I can locate that. I've got all these specialty adhesives lying around. What is this? This is a line of adhesive, so that will work. I'm just going to put two, because it's so thin, 2 lines through. And I am going to place it at the bottom where the fold is. Line it up with the right-hand side. There we go, so that it folds properly. And now I'm just going to trim around the edge of this because I've got some excess there. As crafters, we know we often have to adjust things in the moment. There we go. And this is going to go whoop. There we are. Try and keep to that edge. There we are. Whoop. A little bit of white still showing. There we go. A little bit of white still showing here. Okay. So now, oh, you know what? I did all this on the wrong side. Because I was planning to use, oh, you know what? It's all good. So there's the flip for that. And then, of course, my photograph will be sitting inside there. And here is, I'm not thrilled with that, but I can live with that because I'll be putting something on there, a photo or a sentiment. This one I need to jazz up a tiny bit. So, again, looks like this is going to fit fairly good. And make sure I have the right measurement. That's 4.5. So I'm going to trim this to 4.5. 4.5. There we go. Alright, and that goes in my scraps. Okay, and again, using my adhesive, and 2, well, maybe 3 lines this time, I don't know. Alright, whoop, making sure, oh, I forgot to do that, making sure that when it opened, it's in the right orientation. And again, I'm going to put this at where the fold is and line it up with the bottom. And it actually looks like I've cut it a tiny bit thinner, so maybe I need to do it the other way. There we go. Line it up with that edge. And then it folds over. Okay, so that worked. Okay. Not thrilled about that. Alrighty, so we have pocket. We have that to keep the flaps down. We have a flap here. We have another pocket here. And this all kind of folds up like that. So there's your basic. And we can make a belly band for this as well. Or maybe I need to fold it the other way. Let's see. That in there. That in there. Okay, yes, that actually worked out better. Okay. Alright, so that's the basic. Now, decorating and displaying after the fact for this is dependent on what's, what your theme is and what you're doing with your photographs. I'm trying to locate a couple of photography things. So, for instance, you could have a, well, this would probably need a 3.5 by 5 photo trim down. So you want to fill this area with a full photo. So let me grab some scrap paper and put those in so you get a better idea of what's going on. Lots of scrap paper. And this was, the full measurement on this was 4.5 by 3 3/8, but not quite. 3 7/8, sorry, but not quite. So 4.5. I'm going to do first. And we may have to trim our photo down by 3 7/8. Okay. So the photo, oh, wait a minute. What happened there? Okay, that's what I was intending, but I've got an extra piece here, so I'll just put that to the side. So now, I have a small border going around, and I just want to make sure that it covers this part, because we don't like that. And I am going to trim this down to 3 3/4. That's what happened. Made it just a little bit too wide. 3 3/4. Does that make sense? Double check my measurements so I don't make a mistake. Yep. 3 3/4. Just looking, there we go, that looks more even. 3 3/4. I'm going to write photo on here so I know that there's a photo in this spot. And I'm just going to put a tiny bit of adhesive on here. This is not making sense. Sorry, it needs to match what's going on in the flap. And that measurement is 3 9/16. So it's completely off there, folks. You will have yours in front of you. 3 9/16. There we go. Hopefully that will fix that problem. I think that will fix the problem. except now it's too tall. Alright, it's one of those days. So let's see what we gotta do to take the top off of this. So this measurement is 4.5. For some reason I thought I had measured that 4.5. Oh, no, it's a bit large. There we go. Thank you for your patience, watching me work things out. Alright, so with any luck now, this is going to fit right in this spot and get covered by the flap. Alright, so there we are, a photo and a flap. And you can also put a photo here, or we can decorate that, which we can look at in a moment. So I'm going to measure this, because this is the thing that has to have a photo behind it. So this is 3.5 inches by, I'm learning as I go here, 3.5 inches by 4.5 inches. Alright, so the next photo is 3.5 inches by 4.5 inches. I'm going to do 4.5 inches first. There we go. 4.5 inches and then 3.5 inches. I turned that around because the edge, for some reason, was really yucky. 3.5 inches. Now let's double check. That seems to be covered appropriately. Might be a smidge too long. So let's just get a smidge off the, well, I'll trim the smidge after. I think that's the better way to go. Alright, then we're going to put the word photo on here. So we know there's a photo going there. And I'm just going to put a tiny bit of adhesive just to keep it there until I get the photos that I want to use. I'm going to line this up with this. And let's just make sure that's flat. Good. And well, I don't even have a tiny bit to trim anymore. It seems to have fit perfectly. And so when we open that, there's our photo. Here we've got to park it. Here we can put another photo. And this one, I'm going to measure the flap. I think that's what I was doing wrong before, is I was measuring the bottom, not the flap that's doing the covering. And this is just shy of 3.5 by 4.5. All right, getting the cutter out. I think I've already cut this to 4.5. Yes. And this is a 1/16 of an inch shy of 3.5. So this should work under here, more or less, once I get it glued down properly. Seems like maybe my fold might be a bit crooked. Turn this around so I can eyeball it better. It's a little bit off. Yeah. I'm not going to worry about that because when the photo's there, it will kind of blend in. We're going to write photo on here. a little tiny bit of adhesive just to hold it in place. Line that up. Like that. There we go. Open up. There's our photo. Okay. So now we want to do a couple of tags. And I want to make sure that the paper is appropriate on both sides for tags. So I'm going to pull out something else from my leftovers here and make a couple of tags. That's the same. So I have these. I have this. And I have this, which is kind of fun. And it's got some of that reddish color in it. Well, I guess I can't really get away from that. I was hoping that hopefully it'll all come off like it's in my mind. So, alright, I want to make a couple of tags. And I think I'm going to make the tags out of this. This looks like a piece that actually might fit in that spot with a little bit of trimming. So I'm going to start with this one. And I'm just going to hand cut it because I know I have to trim it anyway, top to bottom, or top and bottom. I'm not going to worry too much about how straight I am. However, I am going to cut the side with a trimmer because I do want the side to be straight. Whoops. Okay, now I'm just going to eyeball and figure out what I need to do to trim that down. So if I take it and trim it with a cutter now, so that it's the same width all the way around, line it up. And the trick to this is I'm lining the edge of my plastic up with the edge of the gold embossing there, trying to make it completely even all the way around to see how that will work. That will fit in all the way, and it's still a bit too big, a fair bit too big. Okay. So I'm going to change my strategy, and I'm going to cut in and remove the gold. There we go. Maybe a tiny bit more off this side. Yeah. Just a tiny bit more off this side. There we go. And trim the gold off. I think I might keep the trim on the bottom, the gold on the bottom. Just on the bottom, because I have to make this much shorter, about an inch shorter. And then I'm going to trim off the gold on the side here. There we go. Oh, need a little more off there. There we go. And now I have to figure out I want to be able to pull this out like a tag. So I'm just going to draw a pencil line very lightly. This is where the top of my tag sits. And I just want to come out a tiny bit from there. So I want about that much off the top. And I am going to cut this into a tag shape using my tag cutter here. This is a really convenient little handy apparatus, and I'm going to cut on the F. So it's like a little cutting board, and as long as I line it up on the same line every time, I will get the same angle of cut to create a tag. And then I put a hole in it because I am going to put some kind of a thread or something in it. And now that is going to live in there. And it will poke up and the thread will flop over to the front side. And on the front side, I want to put this little piece here. So as you can see, I can work through every little piece of this with you, but unless of course you have the same paper I have, it's not going to be that much help to you. But I hoped that sharing my thought process with this, let's see, it would help you kind of get some ideas as to what you could do with your little album. And these are a bit tricky because they sort of don't really, not really lining up like you would normally have your journal spots lining up. This is, I think, meant for a different purpose, but I am just trying to get it so that I can use this little piece as decoration on my front flap there. And I'm going to have to trim it with scissors. And hopefully it will work. There we go. And that's going to go right there. Okay. So just, you know, showing you different ways you can add different bits and pieces of paper. I'm just going to corner round this with a different corner rounder than the last one. And stick that down. Whoop. On top of the pocket. Kind of center it if possible. There we go. And then there's my tag that comes out, and when everything's not in use, this gets folded over top. Okay, so that's basically it in terms of the construction. The decorating, as I said, is completely up to you. I know this was a quicker tutorial than I usually do, but I hope that you find that this is a nice little gift that you can give to somebody when you're visiting, let's say at Thanksgiving. And belly band, I should show you how to do the belly band. So the belly band is really simple. It's just a piece of paper that goes all the way around, and of course I don't have a long enough piece at the moment, so I'm going to cut a piece of this because I think it coordinates well with that outside. And I'm going to give it 3/4 of an inch. I think that's a good size for a belly band, and you can also add something to the belly band as well to make it fancy. You can add flowers or whatever you like, and literally you're just, once your project is done, you should make sure that your project is finished so you know how thick it is. You're just going to wrap your belly band around and loosely glue the two sides together, and it will just slide off and on. Okay, and that's it. That's your little album created as a gift for a friend or for the hostess or for yourself. Have a great Thanksgiving. I think I'll see you one more time before then, but have a great week. Bye.